Yeah, thank you, Niteshri. My presentation that Niteshri is talking about, that we've pre-recorded and sent to all of you, is on denial of reproductive health rights of a particularly vulnerable group, the Bega community in Chhattisgarh. And I do hope that all of you have had a chance to at least briefly um, go through the presentation. I'll just in the next maybe 5 minutes, I'll just give a brief summary of the presentation. The issue is this. Now, now, first, to understand who are particularly vulnerable tribal groups, so they were classified by the government in the mid 70s as a group within the scheduled tribes who are but who are like more seemingly more vulnerable than the rest of the tribal groups, and there were certain characteristics, one of which included declining or stagnant population. And as you know, that in the 1970s and after the emergency, the way the course of family planning program was going on. So in 1979, the government of India, and then subsequently the state of Madhya Pradesh, of which Chhattisgarh was a part at that point of time, issued an order restricting the access to permanent contraceptives, contraceptive services for all PVTGs, particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Subsequently, now it's nearly been 40 years, and recently last year we did a study which is presented. A lot of the data is presented in the presentation that you would have seen, on trying to explore the health inequities amongst the PVTGs, both in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. Specifically, we looked at the impact or the experience of this this order within the community and how it was affecting them. And as a result, we did, as you would have seen in the presentation, the Begas, they faced, they were anyways, they are facing a lot of issues in terms of the loss of their traditional livelihood, loss of rights over their forest resources, over their land, and basically because they were a lot of the livelihood did depend upon forests, but right now with the state and the market control over these resources, they were losing their traditional rights, and they have also lost their traditional livelihoods. On top of that, you have a situation of extreme marginalization, both politically and socially. And within that, this whole this order that sort of put a ban on permanent sterilization, and with the idea of making them have more and more kids, that again has exacerbated their poverty and their marginalization. So this order, let me just clarify that in the 1979 order did say that they can access temporary methods. There was a restriction only on permanent methods, and even for permanent methods, the order said that they could take permission from a government official if they want to get it done. But it's been operationally really implemented as a ban, and not in Chhattisgarh, but in many other states. So the Begas are facing, and other PVTGs in Chhattisgarh, which include Kamar, Pahari Korwa, Bujmari, and Bidhor. are facing a lot of problems, and a lot of harassment in terms of trying to access these services within the state, and as a result, a lot of them go out of the state, where or they have to identify themselves as non-PVTGs. The For the beggars who, the tattoo, they have a forehead tattoo that sort of identifies them as a beggar, and that is used to deny them the services. Last year, PIL was filed in Chhattisgarh High Court, which sort of um, um, uh, which by 10 Bega families, along with Jan Swasthya Sahayog Ganyari and Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, People's Health Movement India. So that so the final order is yet to come, but this is basically an issue of self-determination of the community, the right for them to choose the number of children they want, and also bodily autonomy and reproductive rights of women, especially of women, because they are the ones who are suffering due to this particular order. So let me then respond to some of the questions that have come in. Yeah. So one question is, about going into a research, going into such a research in which we are interacting with these extremely marginalized and vulnerable groups, like the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So both in Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. So definitely there were a lot of ethical concerns that we needed to sort of take into account, because I mean, in our, to start off, in our selection of the area, we did not go into a completely new area where we were not, where people were not familiar with us, or we were not sort of familiar with the situation or with the issue of that area. So we specifically chose the blocks where already where already organizations were working very closely with these communities on their rights. So we collaborated with these organizations. For example, in Pandaria, we had Astha Samiti who's working there, and also with the with the State Health Resource Center that was facilitating the community health worker program, the ASHA, or the Mitanin program as is called in Chhattisgarh. So that so that and we also had people from the community, from the local area, who were part of the research team. So that was very important for us. The other thing was, see, when you and we did this research during the monsoons, which is like the most sort of challenging season in terms of disease and disease outbreak and illness. So even for our research team, it was a huge challenge, and keeping them safe, that was another issue that we had to, so we had protocols for malaria, how to deal with malaria or with any diarrheal outbreak that happened within the research team during the trip and during the research. And along with that, we also made sure that whenever we encountered any person, any Bega person who was in need of support, wherever we went for the household survey or for our qualitative interviews, it was very important then for us to take up that issue, and we did that. We from advocacy on having Ashas, Mitanins being recruited there, where there was not, and to for example, some of them in a couple of villages, we found that because they were not able to build toilets, their PDS rice was being denied to them for a few months, and so then we immediately contacted the food department and got the right rice distributed. So any such issue that we faced, and even some instances of individual individual illnesses. So all these issues faced, we dealt with, and we responded, which was part of our protocol, and of course the usual protocols of taking ethical clearance, of taking informed consent, even for photographs, and a general a behavior of respect and towards the community. So that was all part of our protocol, and was and having people from that area, people who are already involved with working with these communities, really helped in that. Uh, Yes. So the other question is about within tribal communities, and I think that's a very important thing that I think even in terms of our research agenda, all of us really need to look at, because it's very clear that tribal communities are not homogeneous, and at times even within the communities, you have certain groups. Who are much more marginalized and vulnerable, and the thing was also that when both in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, what we found that even the for example, in Chhattisgarh you had the Gond community over there with the Begas, or in Jharkhand we found we were doing research among the Sabar, and the Santhali community so was there in that area. So there was a lot of inequity between, even within the tribal community. So I think that is a very important thing for us to consider, and especially because the PVTGs are already categorized. I think that's a very good sort of starting point to look at the PVTGs in our states, and really focus a lot of our research and advocacy and our engagement with them. Yeah. So there was, there was a certain, we did not, yeah, so we were collecting data for the last 1 year in terms of hospitalization and in terms of mortality. And there, yeah. Yeah, so I think Sapna has a question on ethical issues, and I think some of the things I have already outlined previously. Yeah, so I want to reiterate, because Prashant's also again asked about the difference, difference in terms of the health outcomes. Even though we did not basically go to a we did not undertake the survey among the non-PVTGs, the non-Begas. However, what happened was that, but we did compare it with the scheduled tribe averages, whatever we had available in terms of the government data, and like we have added in the presentation. So we find that, right, as per the NFHS data. So when we look at the malnutrition levels of Begas right now, both adult and under 5, we find that they are right now at the stage that the Chhattisgarh scheduled tribe average was in NFHS 3, that is 10 years back. So I think it'll be safe to say that at least in our case, we found that the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, their malnutrition status, the malnutrition status of Begas was the similar or higher than was what the scheduled tribe malnutrition status was 10 years back. So in that sense, you can understand the difference within the tribal, within the scheduled tribe category of different tribal groups. So a lot of the other question is on geographical location, and whether it made any difference. Now, I'm sure you would have experienced that in your states also, that because the PVTGs are traditionally they are forest-based communities, and they have they and they live in areas which are also geographically quite sort of inaccessible. I mean, for us, but it's that's how they live. I mean, that is their home. So it's yeah. But so when you look at the look at where the district is, or where the block is, or where the health the primary health center is, so it's all or the main villages, bigger villages with a lot of the government services is, then you do find that you have the PVTGs are living in the more sort of further off areas, but it's also and even within that geography, if there are non PVTGs, however, still you find PVTGs more and more up into the forest or into the hills. And for example, I wouldn't know about the others, but for Chhattisgarh there is I mean, for example, Professor Archana Prasad's writings have said that how the Begas were actually landed people, previously landed community, and how the Marathas came and sort of pushed them into the hills. So historically also there is a process that has been going on, which has actually also led to their further marginalization and going into geographies which are very difficult, very hilly, very forested, and in that sense inaccessible for the sort of the what we now call the mainstream. And yes, and within those villages, I mean, it it did matter, which tribe you belong to, and a lot of the inequalities and the iniquities were actually clustered geographically. So that's another thing that we saw, that so if you have a Bega Para, and then you will not, you may not have an Anganwadi there. You may not, I mean, it will be like further away from the main village, which might have the other tribal groups. But then your Bega Para is further away from that village, and the access to Anganwadi or schools is very limited. It's difficult for children to walk over streams or nalas to come to the main village for Anganwadi. So even within a village, the location of the more marginalized communities was very clear, and that restricted their access to public services, etc. Yeah. So because see, so there is a question on whether women did not want more children, and yes, that is true. Women, I mean, at least the as per the conversations we've had, the discussions we've had, the group and the interviews that we've had with the communities, they have been, unanimously, including the women, and we had some discussion with the men. Both were unanimous in their demand that they should be given the right to access any kind of contraception that they wanted to, and having and women, I mean, even though we were not able to document this, but there were some experiences of women having to undergo unsafe abortion and things like that, because they just weren't able to they just did not want that pregnancy, and I mean, we must understand that, I mean, I suppose, I mean, right now when we were talking to, I mean, things have also changed in the last 40 years, in terms of survival. And even though children, I mean, even now, if you look at the mortality rates, it will be much higher than the general population or the other tribal groups. But at least, for the Begas, things have improved. and there has been sort of some government services, whether it is through the sub centers, the primary health centers, or the community health workers, the mitanins. So there has been, for example, there were instances. So people were very clear. I mean, were sort of very clear that the increase in vaccination, immunization, I mean, that immunization had really increased, and even like a decade back, they did not have access to those services, but right now there is. I mean, even though some of the hamlets get left out, but it's more or less, there's been an improvement in the reach of the government services to these areas. So as a result, so now I feel, this is my personal opinion, I also feel that people are more willing to, because they have a more belief that also a lot of the children will survive, maybe because of some of these services coming in. So even so they really want to have the right to these contraceptive services. And it's not only today, like I have presented in the, I've given in the presentation, even like in 2002 or 2003, they had gone and met the chief minister, the then chief minister, and tried to get him to cancel this order. A few years back, around 6-7 years back, again the Bega Mahapanchayat, or the group, the traditional, the leadership of the Bega community, they wrote a letter to the current chief minister asking for this. And like I said, in the PIL also we have, so the Bega women who were denied access, they have come and filed together and filed a PIL, in the court. So most so the proportion of home the institutional delivery is definitely less than the state average, but this particular area where we had done the study was done, so we had so there was a particular primary health center that was the Kukdur Primary Health Center that was providing some of these services. And as a result, there were some instances of women coming there, and we also actually, there was a lot of gap in terms of because see, a lot of them are from very like I said, geographically difficult areas. They live in sort of geographically, it's very so the vehicles and all did not reach the so there were a lot of instances in which they had maybe called this thing an ambulance, and the ambulance did not come. But overall, so there was an attempt to go to the hospital, to the primary health center. It was very difficult for them to access the district hospital, because that was that is extremely far, and even in terms of hospitalization, only 1/3 were enrolled into the health insurance scheme. So we find that in all the schemes of the government and in the government services, these groups are the one, or the Begas were the ones who had the least access. And so antenatal care, as per a study, we had around 70% hamlets where immunization was happening, and it was mainly being done by the the ANM. And then the so 71% of the women who had been pregnant in the last year had been registered with the subcenter, and around 61% had undergone the antenatal care. There were again some hamlets that were left out, where where the ANM was not reaching, but there were the immunization was maybe happening in the bigger hamlet, So it was sometimes irregular because it was very difficult for people to go from there. Sometimes the hamlets had like this 3-kilometer trek up the mountain from one hamlet to the main sort of village where these services were available. In terms of institutional and home deliveries, around 70%, there were 38 women who delivered in the last year, and 2/3 of the deliveries were in home, and 1/3 was in a government hospital. And there was out of the 38, there were 2 cases of the neonatal death, and and most of them, actually, the ones who had gone to the hospital, most of them did receive transport to the hospital. It is only in areas where so there is geographically, the issue is also, and the way the transportation is placed within a health center or within a location is also that, if the transport it's not placed nearer to the villages, the referral transport, then it takes, sort of 1-2 hours to reach that village, and then it'll take 2 hours to come back. So subsequently, we've made a detailed, comprehensive plan on, because when we shared this study with the National Health Mission here in the state, they wanted us to prepare a plan on filling some of these gaps and facilitating better healthcare. And as a result, so we've submitted the plan, and which has, along with discussions with the community and with the Mitanins and with the other health workers in the area, and which has now been approved. And we hope that some of these issues that we had been bringing up, and how the government can be responsive, rather than talking about, people, the overwhelming perception from the government or from a lot of the health workers is in terms of victim blaming, how people don't come, how people don't understand, how people are not aware. And really, this study, we've always known it. It's really how responsive. The question we need to be asking is, how responsive is the government or other public services to the needs of the community? And so we hope that through this plan, we will be able to discuss some of these issues, and get some of these things implemented on the ground. So there is a question on why is there a high demand for sterilization, and again, there are a couple of things in that. One is that because no other facility, contraceptive facilities are really made available as part of the the family planning program of the government. And like I said in my presentation, even now it is only sterilization, and it is only women's sterilization that is sort of targeted, and all the numbers are provided as such. It's not, after the Bilaspur tragedy that happened in Chhattisgarh, and there was so much of conversations about how to make these services safer for women, and there's really not been any sort of emphasis on men on vasectomy, or on ensuring a lot of the temporary methods to reach the villages. So it's still sterilization. So one problem is to do so. So the one reason that the community is also constantly talking about sterilization is that they really don't see the government providing any other kind of contraceptive services, even to the others outside the community. Outside PBTGs, even to the others in the state. So that's why automatically that demand comes. And and then I'm just looking at some of the questions. So So the discrimination that the Bega community has faced within the health system, or with the vis-a-vis health system, it's not only related to this. It's not only related to the sterilization issue or this order. This is a very specific and a very it's a specific kind of denial that is there in addition to the other kind of abuse and neglect that they face. So the community, so there are issues of like I said, a lot of for example, language and a lot of harassment at the hospital. And again, really not the services, government services are not geared to respond to the specific issue. For a very basic thing like food, so I mean, at the primary health center, still it's nearer to the village, people can arrange for their food. But if a person has to be referred to a community health center or a district hospital, and which is like more than like 60-70 kilometers away from their hamlet and from their village, and if the government does not provide them with food, not only the person who is admitted, but the people who come with her, so very basic things like this, which are also relevant for any other patient that is coming, but it affects these communities the most, because they don't have the money to buy that food there, for the rest of the family members who come. So the distance to the hospital or the health facility really mattered for people. The amount of money that is going to go into accessing that particular healthcare really mattered for people. And also the sort of the belief that, whether if they go there, will they get the service properly? Will they sort of be really slapped around and not really given proper respect in the health facility? So this all mattered for people, the familiarity with the health workers or the doctors in that facility. So that really determined whether they wanted to go for hospitalization. The other thing I wanted to highlight when I was talking about the institutional deliveries and the home deliveries is that, the traditional dais had been there who have been delivering in that area, and I mean and there is really need to have skilled birth attendants at the community level who are able to deal with normal delivery, and then you have a referral system in terms of complications. But what has happened, that the skilled birth attendant at the community level, that thing has been concept has been completely disregarded, and women are constantly told to come to the facility, but the requisite support in terms of trying to figure out how women have to be carried in many instances, because there is really no road and they have to be carried on stretchers and things like that from one area to the other. So really not without giving the requisite support, you are asking people to use the services. And the other thing about responsiveness of the healthcare and discrimination was, when we talked to the traditional dais and the community, they said that traditionally they always give birth in a crouching position, so they do not, it's not a lying down position. And this is something which, later on, we've been exploring a lot of, we've been reading up on it, and even the WHO's recent guidelines on deliveries in hospital says that women have to be position. They can take any position during delivery, whatever is comfortable for them. Now, traditionally, these women would, take a position which is most comfortable for them. But when they come to the hospital, they are not allowed to do that. So currently in Chhattisgarh, if I see this kind of a thing, in the medical college here they have now started doing some work on this. Now they don't have the kind of the labor tables that were there previously, and they've now got these beds where women can, but but I'm not sure how much freedom or choice that women are given in order to deliver in the position that they want. But that was one of the issues in deliveries and in women really being scared to go to facilities to deliver. Yes. So Pragati has asked that what what the political will on this matter is, and what's the biggest policy window available. See, right now, like I said, we have been, and the community has been trying to advocate and influence politicians, the chief ministers on this issue, and from the community, it's quite unanimous, this demand, and but because the government is not willing to, I feel, not willing to change it at this moment, because the other thing that, they also think that, because I don't think that they're very confident of being able to provide services to ensure the survival of children among Bega communities or, other PVTGs. So it's really an issue of, taking the safe way for the government to sort of keep continuing this policy. But on the other hand, the kind of, it's doing just the opposite, and it's just making life so difficult for women and for the community. So the government is really very cautious on this, and it does not want to take. It was very evident with the response that they had to the PIL that was filed. In the response, they put out a new order claiming that they had resolved the issues that were brought up in the PIL. But then again, permission was needed. Now, they had specifically said that the subdivisional magistrate will give an affidavit, will give a permission, and only then the woman or the man will be able to undergo permanent contraception. So now the issue is, the issues of self-determination, the issues of choice, and how can you hold a community or women responsible for increasing their population and which is having such disastrous, impact on their health? There is a need for the government to look at, to address all the issues that PVTGs are grappling with. The Khaka committee, which had report which had come out in 2014, and I would encourage all of you to actually read it. It really outlines all the issues of tribal communities and specifically PVTG. So it's not a one. The situation that they are facing now, it's not only because of one particular order. The order is only a sort of a reflection of the larger sort of kind of disregard or non-recognition of their rights, of their right to self-determination that is happening. So it's not only about a right about on your body. It's about right on the forest, rights on the various resources, right on your own land that you're living in. The Forest Rights Act was supposed to sort of hope that it would resolve some of these issues, giving ownership and rights to traditional to people who are traditionally tilling the land. But again, when you see, it's with the PVTGs, it's been a huge struggle in Chhattisgarh trying to get the Forest Rights Act implemented among the so the government, because again a lot of dynamics then happens, and so you have a lot of the other tribal groups or the non-tribals coming in, and because they again, they suffer from multiple marginalization. So you have education, so you have political power, you have economic power. So none of these, none of these are available to them to the extent that it is there with the other communities. So they face that kind of discrimination overall within society. And this particular order is just a a reflection of that. And we do hope that now the I mean, the court might should rule. I mean, court was very much willing to rule for it, but we felt, I mean, our lawyers felt, but the government thinks it's a sort of sensitive issue. So, but we cannot. The government cannot deny the impact that it's been having on women's health and on children's health. So Nilima is asking how much the population rise the government is anticipating in the group. I'm not sure. I am not aware of that. But the thing is that the population has been rising, and I mean, we must again. I mean, it again goes back to the whole discourse on population control, on and demographic transition and things. So what sort of impacts population growth or population decline. So these are larger issues which the government really has to address and deal with. And this is so that's very important. And I don't think there is a particular number that the government wants to reach. And the situation might be different in different states, among different communities. But at least in Chhattisgarh, we have found that the population has been increasing, maybe due to this particular order. But then the impact it's had on the community has, I mean, they've had to bear the burden of it, basically. Then there is a question of people accessing temporary methods. Again, the issue is as problematic as it is for the other people, the other communities. Again, it has to do with the larger issues in the family planning program, what the government forces or what the government implements, what it does not. So it's really related to that. So the supply of like temporary methods was something that ANMs spoke to us about. So the IUCD, the cooperatives, were not supplied adequately. Condoms and oral contraceptive pills were not supplied adequately. Some of the ANMs thought that they could supply, they could provide some of this to the Bega community. Some of the ANMs were not very sure that they could do this. And you must understand that there have been, legal proceedings against ANMs or health workers who have sort of got women of the PVTG community for sterilization. So, I mean, in the last decade or so, because this conversation has been happening, there has been a lot of there has been a lot of understanding of actually what this order says. But before that, we've had cases for, I mean, I know of, I've heard of a case in Jashpur district among the Pahari Korwa community where an ANM was actually suspended and criminal proceedings were done against. I don't have any more details, but so basically there was a lot of fear among the health workers and the doctors that and if they sort of provide these kind of services to the PVTGs, then they will also be sort of proceedings will happen against them. And but when you talk to them, when you talk to the ANMs and health workers, that's another question about how did what the health workers and the doctors thought about this order. Again, they also, I mean, they were very sensitive to it. I mean, they too felt that this should not happen because women, see, for example, for the ANMs and the Mitanin, I mean, a lot of the Mitanins was from the Bega community themselves, and the ANMs, women come to them and talk to them about their problems, and even the doctors who were there at the primary health center, or even so did say that this order should be sort of revoked, and they felt that it was really also leading to a lot of problems for women, for women's health. So that again, so there wasn't any I mean, previously there might have been some fear that if we provide these services, there will be some action taken against us. But I think in the last decade or so, because this issue has been coming up quite a bit, and even in the media, in the papers. In fact, recently there have been some tribal leaders who have reiterated, I mean, in Chhattisgarh, from the Adivasi Sabha and all, so main tribal leaders of the state have reiterated that this order is really not, I mean, sort of, you can get it done. You can get permanent contraceptive services. I mean, but right now, see, it's still after taking permission for your own choice. Yeah. So that still stands. Meena's asked about and whether there are any demand side factors that deter them from accessing family planning services. So we didn't, I mean, other than the usual factors that impact any community, or in terms of access, in terms of their belief in or their trust in the health system. Other than that, I think this is an issue that is very near to people's lives, and they I mean, we've only got a lot of response of how how they do not want this kind of order, and that kind of thing, at least with the community that amongst whom we did our research. So there's a question of whether lack of sterilization service is adding to the mortality rate among women due to health challenges. I'm sure it is. If you look at evidence on so when you look at the high fertility and the impact it has on child mortality or maternal mortality, especially in a situation where the health services are really, I mean, the larger health services are also really restricted and far from where they live. But we could not. I mean, 1 year is really not a period that one can track some of these things, maternal mortality, or because our numbers were also very less. But I must say that it is, I'll end with saying that it is a lot of these issues we're not able to address or talk about because we don't have the data, and disaggregate. So whether it is IMR or whether it is maternal mortality, so disaggregated data, I think, is very important. And within the tribals, looking at the different groups is very important, and that's really a start, and we can't do without it, and we should really start looking at some of these things. Otherwise, a lot of their issues, their experience, their lives will just remain invisible, as it already is right now, and to a great extent. Yeah. So yeah, there is no other question. Yeah. I thank you for your questions, and please, please feel to get in touch with me or with if you want to know more about the issue. And I'm sorry I could not provide any resources, but I hope to be able to do so. If you, if you contact me, I'll provide you. You can also go on the internet and try and search for more information about this issue. I mean, there has been a lot of media articles on PVTGs and on the sterilization ban. So I hope this will sort of help you to will sort of stir an interest for you to see and experience and engage with these groups in your respective states.